All right, so we'd like to invite Ben.
Ben is here.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm here. It's a magic show.
I know. I thought he was over there. I'm like, you closed him in. Well, welcome and good morning, everyone. We'd like to invite Ben, and we'd like to invite you to stand for our opening song, Hey Yana.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey Yana, ho Yana, hey Yana. 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 The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. Hey Yana, ho Yana, hey Yana. 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 Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Her sacred ground we walk upon, with every step we take. Hey Yana, ho Yana, hey Yana. 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 Hey Yana, ho Yana, hey Yana.
On Mizrak and Ben Anderson. Love it. Thank you, guys. Good morning, everybody. Good to see y'all. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Rogue Valley in partnership with Unity of Medford. We did an official ritual honoring the coming together of our two communities, and this is the weaving representing both communities and our diversity, which we put together thanks to Jean Hanna last week. I'm Reverend Kimberly Hawkins, the senior minister here. It's always my honor to welcome each and every one of you. As you know, if you've been here before, we do welcome everyone, no matter where you may happen to be on your own personal spiritual journey. We believe there is one divine presence, one God, many paths to get there. If you're here for the very first time, we'd love you to raise your hand so we can just give you a little love. Welcome, welcome. And if you haven't gotten a welcome packet, our ushers will find you. Prudence is on her way in the front row here. Prudence, thank you. Welcome also to those watching us online. Always good to have you here as well. A couple people I need to introduce. Reverend Stephanie Clark, the birthday girl. We'll be doing our invocation and reading this morning. Reverend Bonnie Anderson, would you raise your hand? She did a beautiful, beautiful meditation right in line with our talk this morning. Thank you so much, Bonnie. You've met our musicians, Anton Mizarek, Laura Berryhill, and Ben went back to be with our teens, Ben Anderson. It is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all our fathers, and we always like to honor you. So whether you're a father, an adopted father, whether it's biological, or maybe you've just served the role of father, you've been a mentor, a support person for a younger person, would you stand up, Father, so we can give you a little love? Happy Father's Day. Yes. Now this is fun. If you're a grandfather, would you remain standing? Wow. And if you're a great-grandfather, remain standing. Any great-greats? All right. Happy Father's Day. Let's see. If you haven't already, please put your cell phones on silent mode or off. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather this morning is the ancestral homeland of the Takelma and Shasta Native American tribes. So please join me in just a moment of silence to honor the ancestral and current struggles of the original people of this land. And so it is. So I'm going to turn things over to our musicians in a moment. Before I do, just a reminder to hold your applause after this particular song, because we will go right into our opening prayer. Thank you.
Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will always love you. I will always serve you. I will always love you. I will always serve you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will always love you. I will always serve you. I will always love you. I will always serve you. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song.
So continuing in this sacred vibration that has been so beautifully set by our musicians, continuing to go deeper into the infinite well of consciousness. I know there is only one presence, one power, one life. Some people call it God. I call it awareness. I call it consciousness. It is everywhere present. It is the one power, the one presence. It is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. And I am that. And each person here is that. And each one watching the live stream is that. Each of us is an individualized version of this sacred presence. Each one here is a magnificent emanation of the One, filled full with all of the qualities of the One, filled full with love, filled full with joy, filled full with wholeness, filled full with peace. And I know that we are gathered here this morning by a divine appointment, that the call of Spirit went out to each one here, bringing them into this sacred space. And this is the perfect configuration of souls for the transformation that is afoot here this morning. So I bless our sacred service and know that it unfolds in grace, in majesty, in ease. It unfolds in joy and in laughter, in love and in peace. We are together, the holy family of the Spirit. And this sacred container is the perfect container for each of us to take a quantum leap in consciousness this morning. I bless my dear sister, Reverend Kimberly, and know that she is the very mouthpiece for the word of God, that the words of truth simply fall from her lips, and everyone who is here is receptive and available and is automatically and instantaneously set free. The truth liberates everybody this day. I bless all the beings who have agreed to be of service to this community, and know that each one is blessed by that act of service, blessed by that act of giving. So everything that happens here this morning is a celebration of the One, and everyone who is a part of that is blessed and ever blessed. I name this service good, good, and very good, and I give my thanks. I let it be, and so it is. Amen. Thank you, everybody, and good morning. I'm Reverend Stephanie Clark, and the reading I've chosen for this morning is in honor of Father's Day, and it's an excerpt from Barack Obama's letter to his daughters, in something that he wrote called "Of Thee I Sing, a Letter to My Daughters." That was in 2009. So, dear Malia and Sasha, I know that you've both had a lot of fun these last 2 years on the campaign trail, going to picnics and parades, eating all sorts of junk food. But I'm also aware that it hasn't always been easy for you and Mum, and the sacrifice you've made, allowing me to be away so much. And I know how much you both have grown during this time. I want to tell you a little more about why I decided to take our family on this journey. Because even though I'm much older than either of you, I was once a young man myself, still searching for purpose and still trying to find my way in the world. I grew up with a father who was absent most of the time. He left when I was just 2 years old. So I grew up knowing only stories and pictures of him. But those stories and pictures gave me a hunger to know more about him, to find out who he was and to find out who I was. My father taught me many things, the importance of honesty, integrity, and hard work. But it was his absence that taught me one of the most important lessons of all, how to be a good father. Because of him, I made a promise to myself long ago that I would give you what I never had, the example of a full-time father who makes the time to be there and show up and be present for all the moments, big and small, in your lives. When I look back on my life, I realize that I wasn't just my father's teachings or my own experiences. When I look back on my life, I realize that it wasn't just my father's teachings or my own experiences that shaped me. It was also the hope and sacrifices of all the parents who came before me, who worked hard and struggled and dreamed for a better life for their children. And it is that legacy that I try to carry forward every day as your father and as president. As you grow older, I hope you will learn the same lessons I did, that life isn't about how much money you make or how many titles you have. It's about the difference you make in other people's lives. It's about the joy you bring to your friends, your family, and to the world. So on this Father's Day, I celebrate all fathers, those who are with us and those who are not. And I hope that, just as I learned from my father, you will learn from me and from all the parents who have come before us, and that you will carry on their legacy in your own lives. With all my love, Dad. Thank you.
Well, we're still loving our Eddie Hawkins Jr., so we're going to do another Eddie song for you this morning, The Answer.
And I called Eddie up a couple of years ago and asked if I could change one word in this song. And he said, yeah, if you want. So we're doing it slightly different.
Here we all are, gathered together in this place. Why are we here?
What is our purpose? What is His will? How do we know what's true and what's real? We may not know where life's road will lead, but it doesn't matter long as we believe that love is the answer. Love is the answer. Love is the answer to whatever the question may be.
What's going on in this world today? Where do we fit? What can we do?
To make a difference, what can we say? Where do we go? This way or that way? If we always and truly believe and love one another, we can let the world see that love is the answer. Love is the answer. Love is the answer
To whatever
whatever the question may be. We may not know where life's road will lead, but it doesn't matter long as we believe that love is the answer. Love is the answer. Love is the answer
to whatever
whatever the question may be.
So beautiful, Anton and Laura. Curious, what word did you change?
It was
So
God is the answer. We
Eddie
made it
said,
love.
the song is called The Answer.
Ah.
Yeah, and he said, and so it's God is the answer. And I think we prepared this one time for a talk about love at some other church. And he called up Eddie and said, is it okay if I change the word God to the word love? And he's like, oh, Eddie said, God, love, it's all
It's the same thing. Beautiful. I think we were all curious then, weren't we? Ah, all right, I got to ask. All right. So we are continuing our theme, Ladder to the Light. Just a little recap. This is based on a book by Choctaw Native American elder Stephen Charleston called Ladder to the Light, and there are 8 rungs. So we began with the rung of faith. The foundational rung toward the ladder, toward the light on this ladder is planting seeds to strengthen our faith. Rung number 2, week number 2, was the ladder of blessing, which meant taking in, really recognizing and feeling the infinite love of the divine for us, for its creation, and how empowering that is if we can really do it. It's a little bit beyond our human understanding, I think. Week 3, the rung of hope, is important, even though we don't talk a lot about it in Unity and Science of Mind teachings, to have hope. And it was such a beautiful example the author gave in the book of the trail of tears, the death marches that our indigenous people were forced to make off their homelands when they were chased away and had to leave everything behind, and yet maintained hope of a future for them and for their children. Last week, the 4th rung, we talked about the rung of community. And we talked about how we don't heal in isolation, we heal in community. And we come here not only to heal, we teach tools to transform our personal lives, we like to say, but we also come so that we can be healed enough to help transform the world, to help make a world that works for all. Not just everyone, but all beings, the earth itself. So this week, I'm actually talking about 2 rungs, and so I've entitled the message, Steps That Heal What Divides Us. This whole idea seems to be in the air lately, and I know Laura Stewart next week is going to continue this theme, which is wonderful. She has a talk prepared for us as well. But the 2 rungs, numbers 5 and 6, are the rung of action and the rung of truth. So, in the rung of action, the author talks about spiritual systems and how so many religions unfortunately teach rigid dogma and exclude anybody who doesn't believe, or tell people that don't believe the dogma that they're going to hell, God forbid. And in Native American cultures, he says it's very different, that it's a loose spirituality. People are allowed to believe what they believe in. I'm going back to the first week when we talked about this message that the author gave to a New England parish when he asked them, what systems, what institutions in our culture do you still have faith in? Nobody raised their hand. And so he asked specifically, how many have faith in the political system? Silence. In our educational system, in our healthcare system. And he went on and on, nobody in the judicial system, nobody had faith in any of these. So how can we as a country expect to move forward when we've lost faith in basically all our basic institutions? And even spiritually, I think we've come up short, as a culture. So in Native American traditions, people are allowed to have different opinions and different beliefs, but they celebrate a shared hope together. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because really, we all hope for the same things, don't we? For our children, for our family, for our friends. That's something, and I've always believed that we have more in common as human beings than we have differences. We may look different, we may believe different, we may act different, but when it comes right down to it, we're all made of that same fabric, that same spirit that Rev Stephanie so beautifully prayed about. We're all one. One of the most beautiful examples I had of living these principles in action, because that's what we're talking about, the rung of action. When I lived in Southern California, I was a board member of an organization called South Coast Interfaith Council. Now, this was in Long Beach, California, so you can imagine how interfaith it was. I think there are 900 languages spoken in the greater LA area. And we had on this board, you name it, any religion you can think of, Quaker, Sikh, Zoroastrian, Muslim, Buddhist, all Christian denominations, progressive or more evangelical. It was amazing. It was so amazing. And they came together, despite their different beliefs, to have educational opportunities and to have just raising awareness of our oneness. Their mission, I'll just read you part of it. It's the mission of the South Coast Interfaith Council to promote mutual understanding, respect, appreciation, and cooperation among people of faith in the Southern California area. And so they even wrote, as Science of Mind, as Centers of Spiritual Living does, they wrote statements about different things. And so the most recent statement I think came out about standing against Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, given the situation in the Mideast, that we need to embrace both traditions and embrace a solution that works for all people. So I gotta tell you, that was a very uplifting part of my life in Southern California. They're still going strong. The executive director, Milia, is a Muslim woman, young, went to Harvard and got her doctorate in divinity at Harvard. And I think I might have shared before that her first day in Cambridge, Massachusetts, going to school was 9/11. So you can imagine what it was like for a Muslim young woman at that time. But she is quite amazing and has assembled around her a wonderful group of people. And I have a taste of that here. As some of you know, I have coffee every Wednesday morning with a group of ministers in Medford. And it's more ecumenical. We're not yet connected to non-Christian denominations, but I'm hoping for that because I think it's so important. So, I share this just because that rung of hope, there is hope. There are good things going on. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. So, dancing is a big part of Native American cultures. We know this. There's hoop dances, a green corn dance, a stomp dance, a sun dance. And the focus, according to Charleston in this book, of dancing is on what we all hope for together. It's on this idea that we're one. And so dancing and celebrating oneness, dancing is more important than dogma. I love that. Celebrating what we hope for together is better than fighting over what we believe separately. Wow. Diversity is our strength. We watched a movie a few weeks ago here on a Friday night called God and Country, and it was about the dangers of Christian nationalism, a group of people that make an assumption that we're a Christian nation and that we're all the same. And we're not. Thank God we're not. And embracing our diversity is our strength. It's what this country, I think, was meant to be built on. Perhaps it wasn't, but it was meant to be. Now I've lost my book. Here it is. I wanted to read to you a short passage from Charleston's book. He says, "The holy name is written in 1,000 ways. The search for truth is chronicled by a host of explorers, and the collected wisdom of all our ancestors is open to us to learn and to understand." This is the key quote here. "The land between us is not a battlefield, but an invitation. We can be a people at peace, respecting one another, caring for one another, living in the dream we have for our children. If we will take the risk, if we will meet the other, come out of the trenches, stand up in the open air. There's no war if there are no soldiers. Religions are not bunkers unless they choose to be." That is reminiscent of the poem Reverend Bonnie read in our meditation, Rumi's poem, out beyond the field of right and wrong, there's a place, I'll meet you there. Wonderful ideas here. So I know I'm preaching to the choir a bit here because we're all here because we do believe in, one God, many paths. But I think on this rung of action, it's helpful for us to be reminded, me as well, to practice this idea of inclusivity and oneness always in all our actions and reactions. We're all going to be exposed to rather disharmonious discourse in this culture of ours, especially as the election approaches. So how can we not answer vitriol with more vitriol? Because that does not create peace, not within and not in the larger community. And that's a pretty hard, it's a challenging thing to do, yes? Because we tend to, I know, I saw somebody the other day wearing an item of clothing that indicated what I thought were his views, and I thought, Kimberly, there you go. There you go, making assumptions based on what somebody says or looks like, all the things you think they believe in or don't believe in, and that's dangerous territory. We don't know. So it's a good time for me to talk about Marla Estes. Will you raise your hand, Marla? Marla Estes is here with us this morning. Marla is the founder, are you, Marla, of Building Bridgers?
The founder and the only person.
The founder and the only person. And I thought it was Building Bridges, but it's Building Bridgers, meaning those who bridge. So on July 12th, Friday evening, Kathy, our board president, has arranged with Marla to show another movie here called Divided We Fall. It's about getting curious. They brought together two groups of people. Actually, there were Gen Xers and millennials that considered themselves blue and those that considered themselves red. And they brought them together, and I may get this wrong, but Marla, we'll figure it out, on a retreat for a weekend together. And they did discussions, and they ate together, and they shared stories together, and they got to know each other. Talk about building bridgers. You know, when we really are open-minded and open-hearted, even those that may have completely different views about religion or about politics, there's so much in common, and there's so much that can be done if we open our hearts to one another. To overcome darkness between people of faith, we need to recognize, we need to have more in common than what separates us. So it's interesting, Charleston talked a bit in this book about putting different faiths together. He has this idea, and I think it's a beautiful one, of putting together people of different faiths, all different faiths, and having them share a meal together. Having no agenda but this type of thing, sharing a meal together, sharing photos of their children, sharing stories of the funniest things that had happened in their families. And he said 1 hour of something like this would be worth more than years of theological debate over who wins or owns the Spirit, because nobody does. Isn't that beautiful? It reminds me of the Parliament of World Religions. I know a few of you have been able to go. Rev. Stephanie has even spoken. At the Parliament, it's so beautiful because they bring together all over the world people of different faiths. And one of the highlights for me was having a langar, which was a lunch prepared by the Sikh community for thousands of people at the conference. And we would put a little hat and we would sit on the floor if we were able and share a vegetarian meal. It was such a beautiful, beautiful experience. So, you know, back to that rung of hope, there are hopeful things going on here on this planet. There's not just the craziness that we tend to see on the news of division and hatred and anger and, you know, war. There's a lot more going on if we recognize it. Truth. So this is the rung of action in the world, to be acting in that accordance with that belief in oneness. The next rung is the rung of truth. Somebody mentioned truth. Well, I don't know if it was Stephanie or Bonnie, but truth is so important. And you know, in this country, we haven't always honored the truth. We haven't. I mean, imagine Juneteenth is coming up Wednesday. Imagine what it was like for enslaved Africans who didn't know until, what was it, 2.5 years after the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation that they were going to be free. When that proclamation was finally read in Texas by a general, 2.5 years afterwards. And it was 2 months after the complete end to the Civil War. And of course, even though black men were given the right to vote after the war, that wasn't much of a reality until 1965. It took that long to get over Jim Crow and everything that was going on in the South. Not to mention that, you know, Native Americans were not given the right to vote until I believe it was 1924. We as white settlers, colonists, came and took over the land and disenfranchised them. 1924, and what was women? 1920, I think. So, you know, that's the truth about our country, and we don't always want to look at it, but I think that we need to, because how do we heal? I think South Africa, we have a visitor, Avril, Stephanie's friend here from South Africa, was the most beautiful example, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, to really be open about what happened and have forgiveness, but admit what happened. So, you know, while we have some areas of our culture that are teaching, oh no, we don't want to look at that, we need to look at the dirt. We need to look at the underside, the darkness in our history, in order to let in the light. Yes? Not to feel guilty or, you know, say America's not good. I love this country, but for gosh sakes, we need to look at the truth before we can move on. I think it's so very important. Jesus even said, I think it was Matthew, I'm not sure about it, it was 8:23, I think it was Matthew, you know, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. We can't hide the darkness. We have to shine light on the darkness. A friend of mine recently, actually it was Teresa, you know, our Teresa Jenkins, told me she's just finishing up a book called 1619. Has anybody read that book? Yeah, well, I have it on my book list now. because apparently it's more of the truth. I tried to read a book called The People's History of the United States, and it was so depressing, I couldn't quite get through it. But I think maybe you should do a book study, so together we can tackle it and look and then move on and make sure that in our actions, in our words, we're recognizing truth. We're not covering it up, and we're moving on. That ladder to the light. In Native American elections, according to Charleston, they're very different from what we do in this country. They have somebody run for a position if they think the person thinks they can do a particular job, and they're elected just to do that particular job. And rather than be separate from the rest of society and be rich and be given donations and so on, if you're running for an office, you're expected to do giveaways, because the idea is if you're a public servant, you're there to serve the people, not take from the people. So it's beautiful. I think we could learn so much, And of course, we sang the song "Imagine," I think, in our prelude this morning. Charleston sang, "Imagine what it would be like if we didn't have political parties." Something to think about, right? Could really shift things. And imagine if we, for example, all agreed that climate change is real and took it from there. So tolerance of lies, according to Charleston, is the source of a lot of our problems here. Honesty, the hope that we can become a focal point for our community's regeneration. The truth will set us free if we unite. I believe that is so, so true. There's a story in here about the raven, which I love. It's a Native American creation story among the Choctaws, and I'm gonna read it to you. It's quite short. Long ago, Raven found the light, the sun hanging like a shiny mirror in the midst of an empty sky. Raven liked shiny things. I think ravens do. He could have kept the sun for himself, but he decided to give it to the people. He brought the sun, placed it in the nest of the sky, and let its rays bring forth life to the dark world below. Raven gave away his most prized possession. We are not what we have, we are what we give. Sharing is the measure of our faith, the simple test of how well we've learned the way of the Spirit. Not to have more for the few, but enough for the many. When you see the sun rise, remember Raven, and give your light to others. That's very Course in Miracles-ish. The Course in Miracles teaches us that we don't have something until we give it away. The culture in general thinks, no, if you have a lot of money, if you give it away, you're going to have less. But the fact is, if we circulate our good, if we give away love, we have more love. We don't have it, really, and recognize that we have it until we give it away. So I don't think I'm preaching anything that you all don't already know in your hearts, but I just give this as a reminder to all of us on this ladder to the light, to take action and to embrace the truth. I want to end today by reading an excerpt from young Amanda Gorman, our poet laureate, her beautiful poem, "The Hill We Climb." She talks about so many of the themes that we've been talking about here in so beautiful a way. Do you want to tickle keys under this? Please. Thanks. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and that norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we know it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We're striving to forge a union with purpose. To compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb. If only we dare, it's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. And she ends with this. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge, battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there's always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Amanda Gorman. Words of incredible beauty and wisdom from one in her 20s. Let's go into prayer. And so as I think about this ladder to the light, this ladder out of the dark kiva, that sacred structure in Native American cultures, where it's dark, but there's a ladder and you can see the light through the circular hole in the slatted ceiling. What a beautiful image it is to remember that that light, that is love, that is God, that is spirit, that is the creator, the source of all that is always present. Whether the clouds of division and rhetoric and hurts hide it or not, that light is always there. It's within us and it's around us. And as Amanda Gorman encourages us, we are here to be it. So I give thanks to know that that beautiful light that God is everywhere, always present, can do all things, knows all things, is always within and around us to guide us, to lift us, to supply us, to comfort us, to strengthen us. As we together recognize the truth, as we together agree to take action that is in keeping with this, knowing that we are one, that we are stronger together, that we heal together, that our differences are so much smaller than what unites us and what we have in common. So my prayer for all of us is that we do indeed continue to climb that ladder to the light, having faith, accepting the love of the divine and passing it on to our brothers and sisters, keeping hope, staying in communities that foster connection and diversity and growth and healing, that we remember each day and each encounter that we encounter God in the eyes of someone else, that we honor and respect our differences. And that we know the truth, and the truth sets us free. I know we all have within us this power to do this. I know there are so many organizations, so many faith organizations, so many nonprofits, so many individuals working to bring about a world that does work for all. And that there's such peace in that prospect, in that hope, in that light. So I know each one of us is showered this week with truth, with guidance, with comfort, with strength to be the light in our families, in our communities, and to the world. I give thanks for this light that is God. I give thanks to see it in each one here and each one we meet each day. The light is so much more powerful than the darkness. All we need to do is flip on a light switch and we know that darkness has no power. So in gratitude for this day, for this week of celebration of Juneteenth, for this community and all faith communities, whether they're worshiping this morning in an ashram, in a temple, in a mosque, on a yoga mat, or out in the beautiful forest. We are one. We are one, and we are the light. And thanks to know this, I just release this word. I let it be into the law, knowing it has heard a big yes from the divine. It is done, and we say together, so it is. Amen.
So we're going to do now a song that I wrote for Juneteenth, right before it became recognized as an official holiday. I didn't know that that was about to happen. I just felt that it should. So. Hey, freedom, what's your number? How will I know you when you come knocking at my door? How I long to hear the sound of your voice. Will you ring in my heart when I'm lying on the floor?
One heart, one love. I'm not free until you're free. One heart, one mind. I'm not free until you're free. So many names for freedom, I've heard them all, and I understand the call. So many false names for freedom. Hope without respect is a yoke upon our necks. One heart, one love. I'm not free until you're free. One heart, one mind. I'm not free until you're free. I can lay down my power, I can lay down my sword. Sweet freedom. In the fiercest hour, victory is yours. Sweet freedom. One heart, one love. I'm not free until you're free. One heart, one mind. I'm not free until you're free.
Must have been a bit of divine guidance, Laura, that prompted you to write that song when you did. So it's time now for our tithes and offerings. If you give online, as always, I encourage you to just bless the basket as it goes by. If you're watching online, you can go to our website, cslroguevalley.org, and hit the donate button. Let's say our affirmation together, and thank you. Mary and Prudence are coming up. You ready? Graciously, I give from a place of love, knowing that as I give, so do I richly receive. So it is.
This is a Blackfeet song. It's to strengthen the light workers throughout the world. Hey, hey, ay, hey, hey, ay, hey, ay, hey, hey, ay, hey, hey, ya, ya, hey, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey. Hey, ya, ya, hey, ya, hey, 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 ya, hey, 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 ya, hey, ya, ya, hey, hey, ya, hey, ya, ya, hey, hey, ya. Hey, ya, ya, hey, hey, ya, hey, ya, hey.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah. So we have a few.
Anton had a Blackfeet teacher that is where he learned
Oh,
that song.
you have such an eclectic background. They just spent, what was it, 2 months in India? Nepal, sorry. Yeah.
A few weeks in India.
Yeah. We're blessed to have you guys. Thank you. So a few announcements. As always, Tai Chi meets here Tuesday at 11:30. Y'all know we have a July 18th Tuesday build for our All Faith Build in Ashland. I have receipts from many of you. I'm going to be reaching out to anybody else who's signed up to volunteer to make sure I have releases to turn over to them beforehand. That's exciting. Reverend Stephanie has a class coming up. She's going to tell us about. We thought we should have something going on for the summer. You know what? I'll just leave this here for you, Steph. There you go.
So I'm going to be teaching a class in July, and it's called A God Who Looks Like Me. It's from the book by Patricia Lynn Riley, and this book opened me up when I first read it in 1995. The class is for women, and what we're doing is dismantling the male version of God that we've been subjected to and reviving the awareness of the divine feminine. And I hope that women or all beings who identify as women will join me. It's going to be Monday nights from the 1st to the 22nd of July. It starts at 5:30, ends at 7:30, so a 2-hour class. And I want you to pay what you feel it's worth to you. So I'm not going to ask for a specific down payment or a deposit. I'm suggesting somewhere between $100 and $200 for the course, but you'll pay what you decide. So I don't want to exclude anybody. Every woman is welcome. And I hope you'll join me, and let's let go of the male BS, the male belief systems, around a male savior, a male messiah, someone male who's going to rescue us. So let's let that go. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.
Yeah. The irreverent reverend strikes again. I've also decided, I was trying to think for the summer, you know, a lot of us are traveling, what would be fun, and I decided to offer a drop-in group to do Poetry is Spiritual Practice, Tuesday mornings. I'm going to have to talk to the Tai Chi people too, but from about 10:30 to noon, we'll be reading a poem together each day. If any of you took the Rumi class, it's kind of like that, where we read it several times and just journal a bit about what speaks to us. It's a beautiful, beautiful practice, and this will be something you can come to one or none or many. It's not going to be a class that we charge for, and it's not going to be something that you have to commit because a lot of us are traveling. We plan to do that from about mid-July through August. So more on that coming soon. Finally, since Marla Estes is here, I thought it'd be really fun to have you come up, Marla, and tell us just a little bit more about this movie that we're showing on July 12th. And she is asking people to register on Eventbrite, which I have done already, but it doesn't cost anything. The tickets are free.
Can you hear me? No?
Get nice and close. There you go.
It's great to see you all. I resonated with very much what was said already today, and I think one thing that is really missing in the general discourse are new narratives. We get lots of the old narratives in our media, in our social media, in our friend groups, our like-minded groups, but this movie that I'm going to show on July 12th, Divided We Fall, gives us a new narrative and gives us role models. So we can aspire for some of the things that the Reverend was saying, but this might show us more ways we can put it into practice, like you were talking about. Like, how do we be that new thing? Studies show, I've been in the bridging world for the last 7 years, and there's a pretty robust a number of organizations that are really trying to do this, but you don't hear about them, right? They're not either the right or the left. Nobody's focusing on them, but they are out there, and I'm seeing a swelling tide turning. I think people are, if nothing else, tired of gridlock.
Yeah.
Even if they want their side to win, they're realizing that that's not going to happen. And yet, sometimes the, what do they call that? The new thing comes from putting two opposites together. And that's what we need to do, I think. So I really hope you join me in the movie. We won't be talking about politics. We will be talking about, the movie does, but we will be talking about in the discussion how the movie made us feel and our reactivity, because it's great to have aspirations of how to be, but it's really important to look at the obstacles that stop us inside from living those aspirations. So I hope to see you there. If you have any trouble signing up, contact Kathy or me, and we'll get you signed up. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's give Marla a round of applause. Don't you love the way Spirit works, the timeliness of all of this, the two movies? And by the way, I have invited, I might have told you, our other faith communities to come. So it'll be another interfaith gathering. Really, really excited about that. One more announcement. I don't think Ellen Michaels made it today. Her group, the travel group, has a bunch of things planned, and so please check the newsletter. That's a lot of fun, and I know a bunch of you were at, what was it, Pascal Winery on Friday dancing. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff if you want to just have some fun and community. So I think that's it for announcements. You can sign up for our e-newsletter. There's a sign-up sheet in Bosworth Hall. Don't forget our prayer boxes. We're going to combine them, but there's one for Unity in that room and one for us, a CSL Rogue Valley, in the back. Our ministers and practitioners would be delighted to pray for you or a loved one or anybody you want to request prayer for the week. I'm going to invite our ministers and practitioners in the room to come forward. They are available, as always, for what we call a 5-minute miracle. So I always like to say, please do not leave here with a heavy heart. These are folks who will listen to a brief description of what's going on and what you want to experience in your life, and know truth for you, because the truth will set you free. Thank you all. Look at this wonderful group. Oh, Laura, yeah. By the way, Laura has completed her capstone exams, and in order to be licensed has one more hoop to step through, which is a in-person, what do you call it, oral panel in August. So she is very soon to be officially, which she already is in consciousness, Reverend Laura Stewart. All right, if you would say our benediction after me, and then we'll turn it over for our closing song to our beautiful musicians. I give thanks, let's see, what is it? I give thanks for this thing called life. Okay, I give thanks for this thing called life.
I give thanks for this thing called life.
Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in my affairs. I accept it. I bless it. And I share it just the way it appears. And just the way it appears not. Thank you, life. So it is.
For years I would talk about how I wanted to change the world. That's right, Stan. But I always left it up for someone else to do. Then I finally realized I needed to take a stand, and that by changing my thinking I could change my life, and that's how I could change the world. So let there be peace.
I am a stand for peace.
Let there be love.
I am a stand for love.
Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace.
I am a stand for peace.
Let there be love.
I am a stand for love.
Let there be joy.
I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now.
Put it
Let
together.
there be peace. I am a stand for peace.
There be love.
I am a stand for love.
Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now. We are making a new